you've got your book all edited, formatted, you've got the covers and everything's ready to launch. Now you're turning your attention to the launch week and the costs associated with this. Now, before we get further along this video, just ask yourself, how long do you want to have your launch phase to last? There's no right or wrong answer. Now, what I've seen typically is like anything from a few days to a month. Not usually more than a month in my experience. Like, I personally do it for a week or two. Not usually longer than that. But it's one of these things that you got to try, you know, and test it out. You know, no one has like the exact formula. Do this and then this will definitely happen. It doesn't work like that, you know, so you got to test things out. Saying that, this is your book, baby, right? So do what you think is best, okay? But you gotta stick to a budget if you can. That's my advice. That's my suggestion. You know, don't like wing it, because that might end up really quite costly and experiments. So as you'll see shortly, there are a lot of things you can do for a launch phase. So it's important that you remember, you know, you don't have to do all of these. In fact, you don't have to do any of these if you choose not to. My suggestion is you pick and choose the ones you're comfortable with, the ones you're comfortable to use, and budget for it accordingly. Now, naturally, there's always the free options that you have to, you know, absolutely make full use of them. So stuff like social media, maybe networking with others for interviews or guest podcasts or appearances, email swaps, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, make sure you try and use that as best you can. Now, I'm going to go through some of the main launch related costs that I think are most common. If there's anything that I've missed out or that you have personally used, you know, please drop it in the comments so we can all learn and grow together. There's quite a lot to unpack, so tickle that like button and let's dive in. So first up, let's start with email marketing or cross-promoting of others. You know, there's going to be maybe some costs involved depending on what you do exactly. You know, the most common ones are like BookFunnel and Story Origin. You can use, you know, if there's a free level, you know, make sure you use that. But if you have to go into the more paid subscription kind of thing, monthly subscription, you got to take that into account as a potential cost. You want to email your peeps before launch week for sure. So whatever email services you use, you may have to factor in the cost, depending on what size your email list. You know, there are some like free sort of tiers, but that's kind of, you know, I don't know. You'll have to look into that, whether it's suitable for you or not. It's quite a personal choice. That's why I can't really say yes or no. But if you have like a large list, then more than likely you're going to have a cost to run the email service. So bear that in mind. So there's BookFunnel, Story Origin, email services. Obviously, if you're at the free level, then don't worry about it. You're all good. There's nothing basically to budget for. This is more like in case you're on the higher level or the bigger email list. Just, you know, be aware that you probably should be aware. You know, if you've got a bigger email list anyway, you should be aware that there are, you know, paid subscriptions for the email services and such. If you found that tip useful, make sure you hit that like button. There's also launch events or parties that you may want to do. Like you can host like a YouTube or online kind of party where you're going to do giveaways of your books or merchandise, you know. Now, the obvious cost is that you're giving away books. So like author copies and stuff like that, that's going to cost you something. So decide how many copies you want to give away. If you want to give anyway, you could decide to give out merch instead. So like t-shirts or whatever. Those could be a bit more expensive, but it doesn't have to be t-shirts. You know, it could be like bookmarks or stickers, you know, the smaller items. They're also light items, so they're not heavy to ship. If you decide to do a giveaway with other authors' books as well, you know, maybe it's part of like a bundle, factor in the cost of those books as well. So, you know, in a launch party, maybe you've got other authors who are, you know, kind of on a panel with you. You may want to feature some of their books, so that's perfectly fine. And if you want to give away their books, so make sure you factor in those costs, because obviously someone's got to pay for that, right? Either you pay for it or the authors volunteer it. If it's physical copies, then, you know, there's going to be a cost. If it's e-copies, like ebook, then you may be okay just like emailing it or dropping it into like a cloud drive or something. That's different, right? But yeah, so if it's like a physical copy, you know, make sure you take into account print or author copies kind of thing, but also the shipping costs. That might vary wildly depending on where you are and where you're shipping to. So make sure you use like some kind of shipping cost calculator. So books are usually the main costs in my opinion. But yeah, like I say, you could do like merch and stuff. The cost of merch will be, depends on what you obviously send, but you could go for the lower value items. That's always a possibility. Next up, it's more generally like giveaways, and you can do giveaways as part of your social media or email building, email list building kind of project, if you like. But basically, you want to build up hype for your book, and you want to get people on social media talking, and maybe sharing your emails and getting their friends and family to join in the giveaway, and you're gonna give away something. Typically it might be a book, it might be other things, gift cards, whatever. I'll leave that up to you. But all of these things, all the prizes, definitely have some kind of costs involved. And if it's books, as I say, there's probably going to be shipping, there may be additional costs, so keep those in mind. Next up is paid book promotions or book promo sites. I don't know what other people call it. I call them promo sites, but basically you've got like websites where they have their own readership. Some of these websites, some of these companies have massive email lists, and all they do is like email the readers regularly, daily, sometimes more than once a day to push books, and basically you can advertise with these companies. It's called book promos, right? Or promo sites, as I call them. And this is really common. I've done it multiple times for both free and lower cost book launches. So let's say my book is normally retailing at $4.99 or $3.99 or something. I might do a launch kind of phase of 99 cents. I might even make it free. Who knows? I might make it free. That's possible. But basically, the book promo sites will usually charge some kind of cost to advertise your books to their readership. Okay, so make sure you factor that in. Just a handy hint, like if you're going to do this, try and book it early if you can. I'll mention it again just in case, but yeah, make sure you try and plan for it, basically, cost as well as timing. If your mind is truly blown by that tip, slap that like button silly. Next up is author website updates. So if you already have an author website, or if you don't have one, you may need to design one or maintain one. And if you've already got a website, it may need updating. Now if you do all this yourself, and that's great, more power to you. Like mere mortals like myself, I'm pretty much a dummy when it comes to anything like website related. So I hire out, and I have to budget for that because of my inability to do my own website. I have to budget for it, and there's definitely going to be costs involved. You got to shop around and see what people are charging for updates, or even like full web development creation or something like that. And just a pro tip, remember, if you're updating your website and you're doing a book launch, make sure you like updates for any lead magnets or cookies that you're going to give away for this specific book. So when you have a book launch, sometimes people like to stack free stuff. Get this book by this time, and you're going to get this lead magnet, this freebie, and so on and so forth. So think about like this with the marketing hat on. So you got to obviously update a website, maybe a landing page or something, or some kind of link at least, that will then help you maybe collect emails, maybe get more hype somehow, that kind of thing. So all this kind of stuff, with the email service provider, with the landing page stuff, with the website updates, this will probably come at a cost for many of us, unless you're doing it yourself, in which case, great for you. But like I say, people like me, I can't do it. So I have to budget for some kind of costs involved with this. I mentioned this earlier, social media and general advertising. Now make sure you make full use of the free stuff when it comes to social media. You can definitely run ads, but before you run ads, at least get posting on social media, whichever or however many social media platforms you choose. You can choose all of them if you want. I'm only sticking to one or two myself because I just don't have the time for anything else, and I don't really enjoy anything else, so I stick with a couple only. But you can definitely branch out to more. Make sure you use the free stuff, as I say, and then if you got a budget for it. Now, I'm not an expert on ads, unfortunately, but what I would say is that whatever your strategy for running ads, make sure you know how much you can afford to lose. You may not see any return on the ads, so just kind of prepare yourself, have a budget, stick to it, and make sure you use the free stuff first. For those of you who are stuck with me this long, I just want to give you some tips for creating a decent launch budget, or prioritizing expenses if you like. Now I just want to reiterate, like, you don't have to do all of these or any of these. You just have to pick and choose what your book launch is going to look like, and budget accordingly, basically, right? Now, plan your book launch like a few weeks before, so you know how much money you need. Sometimes you may need to save up a bit more, and if that's the case, you may have to push your publication date a little bit further. Consider that. Now, it's also important to really plan ahead, and like I mentioned it briefly earlier, but the book promo sites, some of these have really long lead times. I would encourage you to, even as you're writing, preferably before you start writing, you kind of have an idea of which book promo sites you plan to use, and see what their lead times are, and see when it gets busy. They may not have availability for the days you want, so booking early kind of makes sense, which means you've got to budget early. because you obviously have to pay when you make the booking for the book promo site. But yeah, basically this is your launch party, so make sure you have a great time, have a blast, enjoy it. It's not every day people launch books, so this is a great opportunity for you to enjoy yourself. But make sure you do it responsibly, do things responsibly, and budget and stuff. And yeah, it's not rocket science. You really should be budgeting for this kind of stuff. If you want more content like this, make sure you hug that like button like koalas hug trees. So finally, if you're working on your manuscript and you want to know more about budgeting or for pre-publishing expenses, check out the earlier videos in this playlist. Now, if you've already published your book and you want to learn ways on how you can get authentic book reviews, check out this video right here. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.